The galaxy trembled under the rule of the Zornak warlords. Fierce, ruthless, and technologically superior, the Zornak had conquered planets and wiped out civilizations without a second thought. Their weapons were unmatched, and their fleets, larger than anything the galaxy had ever seen, tore through the stars with terrifying efficiency. No one had dared to challenge them. For centuries, the Zornak had been the supreme force in the galaxy, their rule stretching far and wide. They had crushed all opposition, burned entire star systems, and subjugated weaker species. To them, the galaxy was a playground where only the strong survived. But their next target would be Earth, a small, seemingly insignificant planet tucked away in the corner of the Milky Way. To the Zornak, it was nothing more than an anomaly, an underdeveloped world filled with primitive humans. The Zornak had heard rumors, whispers, of a race far behind in technology. But they dismissed it as foolish talk. Humans, they scoffed. They're nothing. A primitive species that hasn't even mastered space travel yet. They won't stand in our way. A Zornak scout ship, sleek and deadly, slipped silently through the black expanse of space. Its sensors scanned the area, its AI algorithms working overtime to calculate trajectories and avoid detection. The scout ship was part of a larger fleet, and their mission was clear: they were to assess the level of threat posed by Earth's defenses, and, if all went according to plan, prepare for a full-scale invasion. The Zornak were confident. They'd taken down far more advanced civilizations than humans, and Earth would be no different. As the scout ship approached Earth's orbit, the crew on board laughed. "We'll crush them in minutes," the captain boasted, confident that no weapon on Earth could stand against the might of the Zornak fleet. But as they crossed into the Earth's orbital zone, something unexpected happened. The Zornak scout ship's sensors blinked with confusion. They had expected to detect the movement of Earth's military vessels, perhaps primitive ships still struggling to maintain their planet's defense. But instead, the screens showed nothing. The Earth fleet, the one they had so easily expected to be there, had vanished. It was as if the entire human military had disappeared. "Captain," one of the officers called out, "I can't detect any ships. The sensors show nothing." The captain's confident expression began to falter. "What do you mean nothing? The Earth fleet should be here." He quickly ordered a deeper scan, but the results were just as baffling. There was nothing on the radar. No energy signatures, no ship movements. It was as though the Earth fleet had simply vanished. The scout ship's AI continued to process the data, running multiple calculations and scans to find any traces of human ships. Still, nothing. They were nowhere to be found. "Impossible," the captain muttered under his breath. "They can't be gone. Earth's primitive technology isn't capable of cloaking or hiding their ships." Suddenly, the crew's disbelief turned to a creeping sense of unease. They were not alone, yet they couldn't see anything. Something was happening, something they hadn't prepared for. In that moment, Earth made its move. Back on the command ship of the Zornak fleet, the warlords were receiving the same troubling reports. They had expected this mission to be simple. An easy conquest, a new world to add to their ever-growing empire. Instead, they were confronted with a problem they didn't know how to solve. The reports from their scouts were contradictory. One moment, Earth's defenses were completely invisible, and the next moment, strange signals were emerging from deep space, like whispers in the wind, barely detectable by the most sophisticated equipment. The warlords gathered in the war room, a large, dark chamber lit only by the glow of holographic maps and data feeds. "What are we facing?" one of the warlords growled, his eyes narrowing in frustration. "We don't know," the chief strategist replied. "The humans have." "Don't tell me that the humans have some kind of advanced technology," interrupted the warlord, slamming his fist on the table. "We've wiped out far more powerful civilizations than theirs. How could they possibly have anything that can stand up to us?" The chief strategist hesitated. "It's possible, they might have developed something we didn't anticipate. The Zornak had never experienced such resistance before. They were used to being the predators, the ones who decided the fate of entire star systems. The idea that a race as weak as humans could hide from them, or worse, possess weapons powerful enough to challenge them, was absurd. "What are we dealing with?" the warlord demanded, his voice low and dangerous. "Unknown," the strategist replied. "But we've detected strange energy readings. Something is masking their fleet. We're unable to track them." At that moment, the lights flickered, and the warlord's gaze snapped to the screen. The Earth fleet, once invisible, now appeared. Suddenly, as if responding to a challenge, the Earth fleet reappeared on the Zornak sensors, but not in the way the Zornak had expected. Earth's warships emerged from hyperspace in a formation so precise, so flawless, that it was clear this wasn't a coincidence. These ships weren't ordinary, no, they were far beyond anything the Zornak had seen. They moved like shadows, gliding silently through space, cloaked from detection by their advanced quantum technology. In the blink of an eye, Earth had turned the tables. The Zornak fleet tried to retaliate, launching their own countermeasures, but Earth's ships vanished again, just as quickly as they had appeared. Cloaking devices powered up, and the Zornak could no longer track the humans. Panic spread through the alien ranks as they struggled to find and target the hidden fleet. Without warning, the Earth warships launched an attack. A barrage of plasma cannons tore through the Zornak ships, cutting through their shields like butter. The Zornak didn't stand a chance. Earth's ships moved with terrifying speed and accuracy, firing off laser-guided missiles that hit their marks with unerring precision. The Zornak commanders watched in stunned silence as their ships were obliterated, one by one. This was no primitive civilization. The humans had somehow developed impossible technology that the Zornak had never encountered. It wasn't just the strength of Earth's weapons, but the way they fought. Humans were unpredictable, their tactics were foreign to the Zornak. They couldn't anticipate what was coming next. "This is not possible," the Zornak commander barked. "How did they?" The enemy fleet was small in number compared to the vast Zornak armada, yet the humans fought with a ferocity that made up for their lack of numbers. With every strike, they seemed to grow stronger, more relentless. The battle that ensued was unlike any the Zornak had ever fought. And it was only just beginning. In the darkness of space, the battle raged on. The Zornak fleet, once filled with confidence, was now disoriented and desperate. Earth's unexpected technology, its guerrilla tactics, and its sheer will to fight had caught the alien invaders off guard. The Zornak had underestimated humanity. They had thought Earth was an easy target, a primitive world full of weak humans. But what they didn't realize was that humanity had always been underestimated. It was the very thing that made humans so dangerous. No one, not even the might of the Zornak warlords, could have anticipated what they would face when they tried to conquer Earth. And as the battle continued, the Zornak learned that their overconfidence would be their undoing. The Zornak fleet, still reeling from the unexpected appearance of Earth's warships, now faced an even greater threat. In the heat of battle, something extraordinary was about to unfold. The humans had revealed a weapon unlike anything the Zornak could have imagined. As the Zornak scrambled to regroup, an enormous warship emerged from the depths of space. Its shape was sleek, almost alien in its design, yet it was unmistakably human. This was no ordinary ship, it was Project Phantom, the pride of humanity's hidden military advancements. This ship was a symbol of human ingenuity, a powerful testament to everything the Zornak had failed to understand about Earth. Onboard Project Phantom was a weapon so advanced it defied all logic, the Graviton Singularity Cannon. The Zornak had never encountered a weapon like this. The cannon harnessed the power of gravity itself, manipulating the very fabric of spacetime. It could bend the laws of physics, creating mini black holes that crushed entire fleets with terrifying speed. As the Zornak watched in horror, the cannon fired. The shockwave of the Graviton Singularity rattled the Zornak warships. In seconds, the Zornak fleet's largest capital ships were torn apart, their hulls twisted and crushed as if they were made of paper. The sheer power of the weapon was incomprehensible to the Zornak commanders. They had no way of understanding how humanity had developed such a weapon, let alone one that could bend the very fabric of space. This can't be real," one of the Zornak commanders whispered. His voice was filled with dread. "We've never encountered anything like this before. How could a primitive species build such a thing?" The Zornak had conquered galaxies, defeated empires, and wiped out entire worlds. Yet here they were, being destroyed by a weapon developed by humans, a species they had once considered insignificant. While the Zornak commanders struggled to process the existence of the Graviton Singularity Cannon, the rest of the Earth fleet continued to fight with a strategy that baffled their enemies. Earth's ships, now fully cloaked using advanced quantum cloaking technology, seemed to vanish from sight, only to reappear in the most unexpected places. The Zornak were unable to predict the movements of the human fleet, as if they were fighting ghosts. But that wasn't the only surprise the humans had in store. Earth's warships were equipped with nano-drones, tiny, nearly invisible machines that could infiltrate and dismantle Zornak warships from within. These drones were sent on covert missions, bypassing enemy shields and armor to wreak havoc on the very core of the Zornak ships. The nano-drones destroyed vital systems, triggering explosions in the Zornak vessels. One by one, the Zornak warships began to fall apart, their once powerful fleets crumbling under the unexpected assault. The Zornak were caught off guard. They had never fought against such a relentless, unpredictable enemy. They had no idea how to counter the nano-drones, which seemed to appear out of nowhere, attacking their ships with precision and efficiency. Their advanced technology, which had once made them the most feared race in the galaxy, was now helpless against the ingenuity of humanity. "Where are they coming from?" one of the Zornak officers screamed as another warship was torn apart by the tiny machines. "We can't stop them. They're inside our ships." The Zornak, who had prided themselves on their superior technology, were now facing a nightmare they couldn't even begin to comprehend. The nano-drones were not just a weapon, they were a symbol of humanity's ability to adapt and innovate in the face of adversity. They were a reminder that Earth, despite its humble beginnings, was capable of developing technology that could bring down even the mightiest empires. Suspense and shock. The Zornak commanders were now on edge. Nothing was going according to their plan. The Earth fleet was relentless, their weapons far beyond anything the Zornak had expected. The sheer unpredictability of humanity's tactics left the Zornak feeling helpless. The Graviton Singularity Cannon had already proven its devastating power, but the nano-drones were tearing apart their fleet in ways they had never imagined. No matter how much firepower the Zornak unleashed, it seemed that the humans always had an answer. They could not understand how Earth had managed to develop such advanced technology. How had these primitive humans created weapons capable of destroying entire fleets? In the chaos of the battle, the Zornak began to turn on one another. Orders were shouted in panic, but the Zornak fleet had lost its coordination. Some ships attempted to flee, but there was nowhere to run. The humans were everywhere, and their technology was too powerful to escape. On the command ship of the Zornak fleet, the leader stood in front of the viewport, his hands clenched into fists. "We've underestimated them," he muttered. "They're not what we thought. They're more than we could ever imagine." Amidst the chaos, one human soldier stood out, a man named Bonner. A seasoned veteran, Bonner had fought in countless battles, but nothing had prepared him for this. As the battle raged around him, he knew what had to be done. Earth was on the brink of victory, but the Zornak still had a few powerful ships left. One ship, in particular, was leading the charge against the human fleet. If it wasn't taken down, it would be able to rally the remaining forces and turn the tide of the battle. Bonner volunteered for a dangerous mission. He would board one of the most advanced Zornak warships and plant explosives on its core. It was a suicide mission, but Bonner didn't hesitate. He knew that this was the only way to ensure Earth's victory. As Bonner and his team infiltrated the Zornak ship, they encountered fierce resistance. The Zornak soldiers were strong, but the humans were determined. Bonner fought his way through the corridors, his every move calculated and precise. Finally, after a brutal fight, he reached the control room of the Zornak ship. With seconds to spare, he planted the explosives and set the timer. Mission complete, he said into his communicator, knowing that he wouldn't make it out in time. The rest of his team had already evacuated. Bonner, however, stayed behind. The Zornak ship exploded moments later, a flash of light brighter than the stars themselves. The explosion sent shockwaves through the battlefield, and the remaining Zornak forces were thrown into disarray. But Bonner didn't survive the blast. The death of Bonner hit the human forces hard. He had given everything for the mission, sacrificing himself to ensure victory. His loss added an emotional layer to the battle, one that would inspire his comrades to fight even harder. Bonner had shown the human race what true bravery was, a willingness to sacrifice everything for the greater good. As the Zornak fleet began to crumble, their once unshakable confidence turned to fear. They had underestimated humanity, and now they were paying the price. The Graviton Singularity Cannon had decimated their forces, and the nanodrones had dismantled their ships from within. But it was Bonner's sacrifice that truly turned the tide. The Zornak were broken, disoriented, and terrified. They had never encountered an enemy like humanity before. The humans had turned their own technology against them, using it in ways the Zornak could never have imagined. The battle was far from over, but the Zornak had learned a painful lesson: never underestimate humanity. With Bonner's sacrifice, the humans had proven that they were a force to be reckoned with. And now, they were ready to finish what they had started. The Zornak were not the kind of empire that would be defeated so easily. While the Earth fleet had taken them by surprise, their rage and thirst for revenge were now driving them to escalate the battle. After their earlier losses, the Zornak warlords, proud and furious, decided it was time to strike back with everything they had. In a show of overwhelming force, the Zornak commanders assembled their best fleets, bringing in waves of warships, each more heavily armed and advanced than the last. They were going to crush Earth's defenses once and for all. This time, they would not be caught off guard. The Zornak launched a devastating orbital bombardment, an attack that would wipe out human defenses on the ground. The Warlords unleashed their advanced AI-controlled weaponry, massive laser cannons, and orbital strike satellites that hovered in the space above Earth. With pinpoint precision, the Zornak aimed for Earth's most crucial military sites, their weapons locking onto the human targets with frightening accuracy. The first wave of bombardment hit Earth's surface. Buildings crumbled, and massive explosions lit up the night sky as the Zornak fired down upon the planet. The shockwaves from the blasts rattled every corner of the Earth's cities. It was a brutal, calculated strike designed to bring humanity to its knees. But humanity had not yet given up. Despite the destruction caused by the Zornak's orbital assault, Earth wasn't finished. In their darkest hour, the humans were ready to fight back. Hidden in their underground bunkers and military bases, Earth's forces had been secretly preparing their own countermeasures, knowing that the Zornak would eventually retaliate. Humanity had developed a new generation of AI-controlled robots. Machines built to match the technological superiority of the Zornak. These robots were designed to infiltrate the Zornak's battle lines, sabotage their systems, and turn the tide of war in humanity's favor. The humans deployed these robots in great numbers, and they quickly spread across Zornak territory, dismantling the Warlords' weapons, cutting off their communication lines, and taking down their shields. While the robots created chaos in the Zornak ranks, human drones, small, fast, and stealthy, flooded the battlefield. These drones weren't just for reconnaissance, they were armed with cutting-edge weaponry. Some of them were equipped with EMP, electromagnetic pulse, bombs, capable of disabling the Zornak's advanced shields and weapons. Others were programmed to act as decoys, distracting Zornak warships long enough for the human fleet to regroup and retaliate. The Zornak commanders were furious as their superior technology was slowly sabotaged by Earth's AI. For the first time, the Zornak's technological dominance was being shattered by the very species they had underestimated. They could not believe what they were witnessing. How had humans developed such effective weapons so quickly? As Earth's forces pushed back against the Zornak, the battlefield was transformed into a game of strategy. The humans, though outnumbered and outgunned, were using their ingenuity and resourcefulness to exploit every weakness in the Zornak forces. The Zornak, on the other hand, were learning the hard way that a battle was not won by sheer firepower alone, it was won by brains and adaptability. While the larger battle raged on in space, a brutal confrontation was unfolding inside the heart of a Zornak warship. A small group of human soldiers, led by Sergeant Parker, had infiltrated one of the Zornak flagship vessels. The mission was clear: sabotage the ship's control room, disable its weapons, and buy Earth's fleet enough time to launch a counterstrike. Inside the Zornak ship, the atmosphere was tense. The human soldiers moved quickly, their weapons ready and their senses heightened. They had to be quick. Zornak security forces were already aware of their presence. Armed with alien technology and ruthless efficiency, the Zornak guards patrolled the dark corridors, their mechanical eyes scanning for any sign of intruders. The humans carefully navigated through the labyrinth of the Zornak ship's interior. The ship itself was a metallic maze, with endless hallways and towering rooms filled with advanced alien technology. The Zornak warship systems hummed with power, but the humans knew they had to act fast. Sergeant Parker led his squad through a narrow passageway, ducking as a group of Zornak robotic guards marched past. The robots were programmed to protect the ship from intruders, and they had no qualms about destroying any enemy in their path. The humans couldn't afford to engage them head-on, it would be too dangerous. They needed to stay quiet and move quickly. As they reached a key control room, they faced their first challenge. The doors were heavily armored, and they couldn't open them manually. Parker signaled to his tech specialist, Liam, who quickly set up a portable hacking device. The team held their breath as the countdown began. If they couldn't breach the door within the next few minutes, the Zornak would know they were here, and reinforcements would arrive. Finally, the door slid open. The soldiers rushed in, weapons drawn, ready to face whatever they encountered inside. The control room was filled with Zornak officers, who were caught off guard by the human attack. A violent firefight erupted, with the humans fighting desperately to disable the ship's weapons systems. They used everything they had: advanced EMP grenades, hacking devices to disrupt the Zornak's AI systems, and their own advanced guns to fire on anything that moved. The battle inside the Zornak ship was a blur of flashing lights and chaos. Human soldiers fought with everything they had, knowing that each second brought them closer to their goal. But the Zornak weren't going down without a fight. They launched counterattacks, sending more robotic soldiers to engage the humans. As the humans struggled to disable the ship's core systems, the sound of heavy footsteps echoed down the hallway. More Zornak forces were coming. Sergeant Parker knew they had to complete the mission before the Zornak overwhelmed them. His team was already suffering casualties, and the pressure was mounting. The tension inside the Zornak warship was intense, and the emotional stakes were even higher. As the human soldiers fought on, they were pushed to their limits. They weren't just fighting for Earth's survival, they were fighting for each other. The soldiers knew that they might not all make it out alive, but they were willing to risk everything for their comrades. One of the soldiers, Private Harris, was gravely injured during the fight. He had taken a direct hit from a Zornak laser blast and was bleeding heavily. Despite his injuries, Harris refused to be evacuated. "I can still fight," he gritted through his pain, clutching his weapon tightly. "We don't leave anyone behind." Sergeant Parker nodded grimly. He knew that every soldier in his squad had made sacrifices, but Harris's determination was something that inspired them all. It was moments like these, when lives were on the line, that made the difference between survival and defeat. But the emotional toll was undeniable. With each loss, the soldiers grew more determined to finish the mission, yet the fear of losing more of their comrades weighed heavily on their hearts. Bonner's sacrifice had been painful, and now, as more soldiers fell in battle, the pressure mounted. Would they survive this mission, or would their sacrifices be in vain? As the battle inside the Zornak warship reached its peak, Sergeant Parker's team succeeded in disabling the ship's weapons. But they had no time to celebrate. The Zornak were closing in, and the humans had no choice but to fight their way out. In that moment of desperation, Sergeant Parker's voice echoed through the comms, "We're getting out of here, no matter what. For Bonner, for Harris, for Earth." The battle inside the Zornak warship had taken its toll, but humanity was not backing down. The soldiers had shown incredible courage, sacrificing everything to ensure the mission's success. The Zornak had underestimated the human spirit, and now they were learning just how costly that mistake would be. With their sabotage complete, the human soldiers made their escape, but the war was far from over. The Zornak were reeling from their losses, but they still had an overwhelming advantage in terms of numbers and firepower. Yet, as the humans fought back with everything they had, they proved that the battle was more than just a clash of technology, it was a battle of will. The emotional core of the battle, human sacrifice, loyalty, and the bond between soldiers, had become just as important as the strategy and technology that powered the fight. As the battle continued, both sides would discover that war was not only fought with weapons and tactics, but with the strength of the human heart. After a series of heavy losses and tense battles, the humans were finally beginning to gain ground. Their will to fight and their innovative spirit had allowed them to keep pushing back the Zornak, but the enemy's sheer numbers and technological superiority were still a constant threat. Earth's military was on the edge of collapse, but Commander Tessa, the brilliant and fearless leader of the Earth's forces, knew that the humans' greatest weapon wasn't just their strength, it was their ability to innovate when the odds seemed impossible. Commander Tessa had been holding a secret weapon, one that had been developed in the deepest corners of Earth's most advanced laboratories. It was a weapon so powerful, so dangerous, that it could change the course of the entire war in an instant. The weapon was called the Quantum Disruptor, a prototype designed to attack the Zornak's ships at the subatomic level, effectively disabling them from within. This weapon was humanity's last, best hope. The Quantum Disruptor was unlike anything the Zornak had ever encountered. While their technology was powerful and advanced, it was not prepared for this kind of attack. When the device was activated, it sent out a pulse of energy that interfered with the atomic structure of Zornak warships, causing them to lose power and function. In an instant, entire fleets of Zornak ships were rendered useless, drifting helplessly through space. Their systems failed, their engines sputtered, and the once proud armada was thrown into chaos. The Zornak warlords, who had once believed that their technology made them invincible, could only watch in horror as their ships faltered. The Quantum Disruptor had done what they thought was impossible, it had turned their strength into a vulnerability. The Zornak, for the first time in the war, were losing ground. The tide of the battle was finally beginning to shift in humanity's favor. Commander Tessa, seeing the effects of the weapon, knew this was the moment to strike. She had already planned the next move, and now was the time to act. As the Zornak fleet began to lose its edge, Commander Tessa gave the order for a full-scale attack. This wasn't just a counterattack, it was an all-out assault aimed at crushing the Zornak forces once and for all. The humans had already shown their resilience, but now it was time to show the Zornak the true power of Earth's military. Commander Tessa ordered her fleet to move in formation, using Earth's adaptive AI warships to their full potential. These ships were designed to think and react faster than any human could. The AI-controlled warships could adapt to new threats in real time, analyzing the Zornak tactics and developing countermeasures on the fly. This gave Earth's fleet an immense tactical advantage. They no longer had to rely solely on human commanders to react to the Zornak, the AI ships could make quick decisions that allowed them to strike when and where it would hurt the Zornak most. The adaptive AI warships targeted the heart of the Zornak armada. Using their powerful shields, rapid-fire weapons, and precision strikes, the human ships focused on key Zornak vessels, those that controlled the fleets, gave orders, and maintained communication between their warships. Without those ships, the Zornak would lose all coordination, and their forces would become disorganized and chaotic. The humans launched their full-scale offensive, unleashing everything they had. The AI warships fired salvos of energy blasts at the heart of the Zornak forces, breaking through their shields and disabling their engines. The Zornak ships began to fall, one by one, unable to fight back against the sheer power of Earth's technology. As the human ships charged forward, it was clear that the Zornak had underestimated humanity's ability to adapt and evolve in the heat of battle. Commander Tessa's bold plan was working. The Zornak warlords, once so sure of their superiority, now found themselves on the defensive. The humans were no longer just surviving, they were winning. Back on their flagship, the Zornak warlords were in full panic mode. The once feared leaders of a vast empire now found themselves facing an existential crisis. Their ships, once invincible, were being crippled by a race they had once considered beneath them. The Zornak had never expected Earth to possess such advanced technology, and now they were struggling to make sense of the situation. The warlords had always prided themselves on their superior technology and might. They ruled over countless star systems, dominating weaker races with their power and strategy. They had never faced a challenge like this. The Zornak had never imagined that a small, relatively young species like humanity could stand up to them, let alone develop technology that could disrupt the very fabric of space and subatomic particles. As the Zornak fleet disintegrated around them, the warlords huddled together in a war room, trying to figure out how to respond. Their once sophisticated weaponry was being neutralized by the humans' unpredictable and seemingly limitless technological capabilities. The quantum disruptor was a weapon that couldn't be countered by brute force or advanced shields, it was something that operated on an entirely different level. The Zornak, in their arrogance, had never even considered that their enemy might possess such a weapon. Zornak leaders were at odds with one another. Some wanted to retreat, regroup, and lick their wounds, but others were unwilling to accept defeat. They had always believed they were destined to rule the galaxy, but now, for the first time, they were facing the very real possibility of defeat. The fear and confusion among the Zornak leadership were palpable. Their empire was crumbling, and the humans were proving to be a far more formidable opponent than they had ever anticipated. The Zornak warlords realized that their strategy of brute force was no longer enough to ensure their victory. Their once unquestioned dominance was slipping away, and it was all due to the humans' ability to innovate, adapt, and surprise them at every turn. The battle was no longer a one-sided fight. The Zornak, once the victors, were now retreating in disarray. Earth's fleets, led by Commander Tessa, had shifted from defense to offense, and the Zornak were on the run. Their warships were being disabled left and right, and their leadership was in turmoil. Humanity had managed to turn the tide of the war with a single, well-timed strike, and now they were capitalizing on the moment. The quantum disruptor, along with the full-scale assault launched by Commander Tessa, had done what no one thought possible. The humans had taken the battle to the Zornak, using their adaptive AI technology to stay one step ahead of the alien invaders. The Zornak, who once believed that they were the pinnacle of intelligence and power, now found themselves fighting for survival against a species they had once ridiculed. As Earth's fleet pressed forward, the Zornak were forced to make difficult choices. The warlords knew that their time was running out, and they began to consider desperate measures. They realized that the battle was no longer just about defeating the humans, it was about ensuring the survival of their empire. Their arrogance had blinded them to the true strength of humanity, and now, they were paying the price. As the Zornak armada continued to break apart, Commander Tessa prepared her forces for the final push. The Zornak were crumbling, but Tessa knew that this was not the time to let up. The humans had gained a critical advantage, but there was still work to be done. The remaining Zornak forces, though disorganized and battered, were still a threat. Humanity's innovation and their unwavering spirit had turned the tide of the battle, but the war was far from over. The humans knew that they had to remain vigilant and continue fighting until the Zornak were completely defeated. It was a moment of triumph, but also a reminder that the fight for Earth's survival had only just begun. With the deployment of the quantum disruptor and the full-scale assault on the Zornak armada, humanity had proven that they were no longer the underdogs in this war. They had shown the universe that, when faced with impossible odds, humans had the power to innovate and adapt in ways that no one could predict. The tide of the battle had turned, but the Zornak had not been completely defeated. The final showdown was yet to come, and humanity's resolve would be tested like never before. The Zornak warlords had ruled the galaxy for eons, their fleets vast and their armies unstoppable. They were the galaxy's supreme power, conquering planets and enslaving entire civilizations. For countless years, they had been feared and respected by every species in the known universe. But now, as their ships floated in ruins and their fleet was decimated, the Zornak were no longer the invincible force they had once been. Earth, against all odds, had become the unexpected victor. The humans had done the impossible, they had turned the tide of a war that seemed hopeless from the very beginning. Using their advanced technology, innovative AI, and strategic genius, the humans had dismantled the Zornak forces piece by piece. Now, with their ships in ruins and their leadership in disarray, the Zornak had no choice but to face the bitter reality that they were defeated. In a last-ditch attempt to save their empire, the Zornak warlords took a bold step. They knew they could not win this war, not with their fleets shattered, not with their best warships disabled by Earth's quantum disruptor, and not with their advanced AI systems being outmatched by humanity's ingenuity. The Zornak were desperate. They had no choice but to send emissaries to Earth, hoping for a truce, hoping for a peace agreement that could save what was left of their empire. The emissaries were sent under strict orders to offer peace to humanity, to beg for mercy. They knew that they could no longer fight a war they were destined to lose. Their hope was that Earth, despite the chaos and destruction caused by the war, might show mercy. The Zornak envoys approached Earth's leadership, knowing that the price of their survival was the future of the entire empire. The Zornak emissaries arrived at Earth's command center, their faces solemn and worn. They had come not as conquerors but as broken leaders seeking an end to their reign of terror. Earth's leaders, Commander Tessa and the brilliant scientist Dr. Reyes, met with them in a tense atmosphere. The Zornak had once ruled over hundreds of worlds, but now they were asking for peace. The tables had turned, and humanity held all the cards. The Zornak emissaries presented their offer, peace in exchange for an end to the fighting, the promise of no more bloodshed. They admitted defeat, acknowledging that their empire could no longer continue the war. Their fleets were destroyed, their resources stretched thin, and their technology was no match for the ingenuity of the humans. They pleaded for Earth's mercy, begging to spare their remaining soldiers and the surviving worlds under their control. But Commander Tessa and Dr. Reyes knew that a simple peace would not be enough. They had witnessed firsthand the horrors of the Zornak Empire, the lives lost, the planets destroyed, and the countless civilizations enslaved. The Zornak might have been defeated, but they couldn't be allowed to walk away unscathed. The price of peace had to be high, to ensure that the Zornak never again threatened Earth or anyone else in the galaxy. Commander Tessa, standing tall and unwavering, addressed the emissaries. "Peace is not free," she said firmly. "If you want peace, you must dismantle your empire. You must release the enslaved planets and people you've controlled for centuries. Only then will we consider peace." The Zornak leaders were silent, their faces filled with shame and defeat. They had never imagined they would find themselves in such a position, begging for peace, agreeing to dismantle their empire. But in the face of humanity's strength, they had no other choice. Their once mighty empire had been reduced to rubble, and now they had to pay the price for their tyranny. It wasn't just a matter of survival for the Zornak, it was about humiliation. They had been forced to their knees by a species they had once thought insignificant. Earth had turned the tables on them, and now they had to make amends for their past sins. With heavy hearts, the Zornak emissaries agreed to the terms. They would dismantle their empire and free the planets and species they had enslaved. The Zornak warlords knew that the price of peace was high, but it was the only chance they had left. Earth had won the war, and they would have to pay the price for their past actions. The Galactic Empire of the Zornak, once a powerful force that dominated the stars, was no more. The terms were clear: the Zornak would surrender, dismantle their empire, and release all the enslaved species they had subjugated. The war was officially over, and humanity had emerged victorious. Earth's forces had not only survived, but they had become a galactic power to be reckoned with. Humanity's victory was not just one of strength but of ingenuity. It was the result of years of hard work, sacrifice, and innovation. The quantum disruptor, the AI warships, and the adaptive technology had turned the tide of battle in humanity's favor. What the Zornak had once thought of as a primitive, weak race had proven to be far more resourceful and resilient than they could ever have imagined. Commander Tessa and Dr. Reyes, the two brilliant leaders who had guided humanity through the war, were hailed as heroes. They were celebrated not just for their tactical brilliance but for their ability to inspire humanity to rise to the challenge. Tessa, with her unwavering resolve, had led Earth's forces with honor and courage. Reyes, with his technological genius, had provided humanity with the tools to fight, and win, against the Zornak. Together, they had achieved the impossible. As Earth celebrated its victory, the universe took notice. No longer would Earth be seen as a small, insignificant planet on the edge of the galaxy. Humanity had proven its strength, and now it stood as a new power in the galaxy, one that had earned the respect of even the most fearsome civilizations. Earth's future was bright, and the rest of the galaxy would no longer view it as a mere speck in the stars. The humans had shown that, when pushed to the edge, they would fight with everything they had, and win. While humanity celebrated its hard-earned victory, the scars of the war still lingered. The loss of soldiers like Bonner weighed heavily on everyone. He had been one of the bravest, a soldier who had given his life to ensure the future of his people. His sacrifice, along with the sacrifices of many others, had made this victory possible. But his death, and the deaths of so many others, were not forgotten. For Tessa and Dr. Reyes, the victory was bittersweet. They had won the war, but the cost had been high. The pain of losing comrades like Bonner, the heroes who had fought alongside them, was a heavy burden. As Tessa stood on the command bridge, looking out at the stars, she remembered the fallen soldiers, the ones who had given everything so that Earth could survive. They had sacrificed their lives for this moment, and their names would never be forgotten. Dr. Reyes, too, felt the weight of the loss. He had created the technology that helped win the war, but it had come at a personal cost. Many of the soldiers who had fought with his inventions had never made it home. As he looked over the battlefield, now silent and peaceful, he knew that the war had changed him forever. The humans had emerged victorious, but the emotional toll of the battle was something that would stay with them for the rest of their lives. Despite the pain, the victory felt sweet. The Zornak had been defeated, and their empire had crumbled. Humanity had not only survived but had proven that it was capable of standing up to the greatest threats in the galaxy. It had been a long and difficult journey, but in the end, the people of Earth had shown that they were not to be underestimated. Humanity's victory over the Zornak marked the beginning of a new era. Earth, once a small and insignificant planet, now stood as a galactic power. The Zornak Empire had been dismantled, and the enslaved planets were freed. The warlords had been forced to surrender, and humanity had emerged victorious, not just through force, but through innovation, resilience, and a willingness to fight for a future that was their own. The cost had been high, but the rewards were greater. The sacrifices of soldiers like Bonner had not been in vain. Their bravery had ensured that Earth would not only survive but thrive. The galaxy would never forget the day humanity proved itself as a force to be reckoned with. And with Commander Tessa and Dr. Reyes leading the way, Earth's future was bright, one full of hope, opportunity, and endless possibilities. After the fierce battle and the defeat of the mighty Zornak Empire, Earth had undergone a profound transformation. Once, humans had been seen as weak, insignificant beings living on a distant, unimportant planet. But now, the story had changed. Earth had become a galactic power, and its fleet, once small and inexperienced, had evolved into a force capable of protecting not only itself but also weaker civilizations across the galaxy. Humanity's victory against the Zornak had been a testament to their strength, innovation, and unyielding will to survive. Earth's new fleet, equipped with the most advanced AI-driven warships, quantum disruptors, and adaptive technologies, patrolled the galaxy with a sense of purpose. They were no longer the underdogs. Now, they were the protectors, and their primary mission was to ensure that no one would suffer under the same tyranny that the Zornak had inflicted on countless worlds. The once quiet and peaceful planet of Earth had become a symbol of hope for those who had lived in fear of the powerful empires that had ruled over them. Earth's fleet, commanded by Tessa, now worked alongside other civilizations to ensure peace and protect the weak. They stood as a shield against any future threats, ready to defend the innocent and fight for justice. The universe had seen what humanity was capable of, and they would not soon forget it. Earth's rise had been swift, and it had already begun to change the balance of power in the galaxy. New alliances were forming with other planets, and humanity's technological advancements had earned them the respect of civilizations far and wide. But while Earth had gained much, the cost had been heavy. There had been many lives lost in the war, and the scars of battle still lingered. However, the humans' perseverance had proven that they were capable of overcoming even the greatest challenges. Commander Tessa stood on the bridge of the flagship, Victory, looking out at the stars. Her heart swelled with pride as she observed the fleet's patrols, knowing that their mission was far from over. Earth was no longer a planet to be overlooked, and humanity's future had never seemed brighter. Yet, she also knew that the road ahead would not be easy. The universe was vast, and there were many unknowns waiting to be discovered. But one thing was certain: humanity was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. As the fleet moved through space, Tessa reflected on how far they had come. The galaxy was a dangerous place, full of empires hungry for power, but humanity had proven that even the smallest of planets could stand tall against the biggest of threats. Earth had won its place in the stars, and now, it was time to make sure that no one ever underestimated them again. While Earth's fleet stood proud and victorious, the shadows of the galaxy were already stirring with new dangers. The Zornak, beaten and humiliated, had retreated into the far reaches of the galaxy. Their empire was in ruins, their warlords defeated, and their power shattered. But in the wake of their retreat, a new, even more dangerous force began to take notice of Earth's rise. A new empire, more powerful and ruthless than the Zornak, was lurking in the darkness of space. The Valkyrie Dominion, a race of warrior aliens with technology far surpassing anything the Zornak had ever known, had caught wind of Earth's victory. They were an ancient empire, known throughout the galaxy for their brutal conquests and their desire to control everything in their path. They had been watching Earth from the shadows, waiting for the right moment to strike. The Valkyrie Dominion had never been threatened before, but now, Earth's sudden rise to power had shaken them to their core. The humans had done what no one thought possible: they had defeated the mighty Zornak, and that made them a target for the Valkyrie. The Valkyrie, with their advanced fleets and ruthless nature, saw humanity's newfound strength as a challenge. They were not accustomed to being challenged, and they would not let a planet they considered inferior rise to become a galactic power. The Valkyrie fleet, with its massive warships and legions of elite soldiers, was now headed toward Earth's space sector. They were preparing to test the humans, to see just how far they had come, and whether they could truly stand against the power of the Valkyrie Dominion. The fate of Earth, and possibly the entire galaxy, would soon be in the balance. Back on Earth's flagship, Commander Tessa was unaware of the looming threat. As she watched the stars twinkle outside the ship's viewport, her thoughts were interrupted by a message from one of the fleet's scout ships. The scout ship had detected an anomaly. A massive ship, unlike anything they had encountered before, was approaching Earth's space sector. Tessa's heart skipped a beat. The Valkyrie were here. She stood up from her chair, her mind racing with possibilities. Earth's fleet was strong, but the Valkyrie were unlike anything they had faced before. Their technology was advanced, and their warriors were known for their viciousness in battle. The quantum disruptor had proven invaluable against the Zornak, but would it be enough against a force like the Valkyrie? Tessa immediately called for a tactical meeting. Dr. Reyes, her trusted scientist, and the rest of Earth's top military commanders gathered in the strategy room to discuss their options. The mood was tense. The Zornak had been defeated, but this new threat was far more dangerous, and humanity's position was precarious. As the discussion continued, Tessa's mind kept drifting back to the message she had received. A new warship appeared on the horizon, a dark silhouette against the stars, larger and more menacing than anything humanity had ever seen. Tessa clenched her fists, determination burning in her eyes. She had led humanity to victory once, and she would do it again, no matter the cost. The humans had proven they could face down impossible odds, and they would do so again. The Valkyrie may have underestimated them, but they wouldn't make that mistake again. Tessa turned to the team, her voice steady and firm. "We've made them notice us," she said, a spark of defiance in her eyes. "Let's make sure they never forget us." With those words, the stage was set for the next great battle. Earth's fleet was ready to face the Valkyrie head-on, to prove once again that humanity would not bow down to any empire, no matter how powerful. The stakes were higher than ever, but Commander Tessa and her team knew one thing for sure: humanity would fight. As Earth's fleet prepared for the coming storm, the stars above seemed to hold their breath. The Valkyrie were coming, and the future of the galaxy was about to change forever.